Singer-songwriter Chris Matthews was born and raised in Richlands, North Carolina. That's a tiny town on the outskirts of Jacksonville, but according to Matthews, most of the time you've got to go one more step over to Wilmington to figure out where she's from. Matthews is a preacher's kid and a Southerner through and through, returning to her roots with a recent move to Nashville after more than a decade in Washington, D.C. That's where she released Changemakers at the height of the pandemic and amidst a social justice reckoning that shook the country. Ahead of her headlining appearance at WGLT's Highway 309 live event, Matthews tells WGLT's Lauren Warnicki that the move to Nashville wasn't just strategic, it was about reconnecting with her identity and reclaiming country music.
Doesn't get much more country than my hometown. It's kind of this conversation that everybody's having right now with all of this stuff with Beyonce's new song. It's like, well, that lady is from Houston, Texas. Right. Of course she sings country music. She is from H-Town. And, this idea, somehow this notion that Black people don't have a right to country music, even though we very much built the South, literally our blood, sweat, and tears. And so much of the culture of the South is Black culture. So much of the culture of country music is rooted in our experiences, our ancestors' experiences. And so this odd juxtaposition of these genres that are historically rooted in Black American culture, but are so often the least friendly, the least welcoming to us. I think the truth of some of those things that some people consider political, I think we need a little bit more of that in country music. So I'm really looking forward to blending a bunch of those two sides of myself, those two sides of my songwriting and storytelling in one project.
Listening to Changemakers, for me growing up in the 90s, I hear Indigo Girls, right? I hear this deeply embedded social justice messaging within this gorgeous box.
For the women with steel in their bones, the ones with titanium skin. I see you, I hear and believe you. May the truth win out in the end.
And then when you kind of juxtapose the space that they were in with like the Chicks, right? And how they were kind of run out of town for having overtly political messaging in their music. Do you think that country music is quote unquote ready to have a different kind of conversation about...
Which is exactly why we need to be having it. Okay. Which is exactly why we need to be having it.
Ayanna and Darnisha, Tamir, Taisha and Trayvon, Michael Brown and Jordan Davis, William Chapman and Laquan, Keith McLeod and Tyree Crawford, Jordan Edwards and Devon, Antoine Rose, Victor Steen, Jeremy Lake and Patterson Brown.
I mean, I think that's such a powerful point. I think the way that the Chicks were treated and the way that we're seeing them kind of welcomed back into the fold for so many people and like revered as heroines for so many people because of their stances, because of the work that they were willing to do with their art. Gaslighter is such an awesome album, like their most recent album, and they really are kind of saying again to the country music establishment, like, look, this is who we are. Like, this is it. We're not doing anything other than just being us. This stuff matters to us. These are our truths. We're singing these songs. You're seeing so many artists kind of having this conversation with the country music establishment, with the Americana establishment as well. Jason Isbell and so many of those artists have been doing this work as well with their art, like just really holding truth to power, speaking truth to power with their art. And so it's a really important time, I think, to be leaning into this idea of just being fully ourselves, authentically in our music. It's so ironic to me that a genre that has the audacity to label itself Americana seems hellbent on not actually being that. What makes people American is so multifaceted. And so for them to kind of perpetuate this idea that it only is going to look like one thing, which is a straight white guy, is with madness.
A truck, and so, a straight white guy with a truck. Let's be clear.
I have the truck for sure. As I drive in my Honda right now.
Yeah.
this is the thing that I'm so excited about with this project, and specifically with this moment. Yeah, it is very scary to be living in Tennessee right now, being as Black and as butch as I am, but it is also a really important time to be in Tennessee, adding my voice to the chorus of other artists who are down there trying to do this work, trying to make this genre, the home of country music, be more what it should be.
I've traveled all across this land, up the Gold Coast and back home again. Found common ground round every bend, and far fewer strangers than I've found friends. A little princess.
I read Rhiannon Giddens' piece in The Guardian about, the roots of country music being created by, not influenced by Black music, but being created by Black people. And it was such an important reminder of where this music comes from. I think we have a deeper awareness of that fact in like blues and jazz. But at some point, country became something else, or at least the visible parts of country music became something else.
That part.
Yeah.
That part right
there.
Yeah.
And I think, this conversation is kind of having a moment. Thank you, Beyonce. And thank you, Tracy Chapman, right? I mean, how does this feel for the folks who have been in that space all along?
I think that most of us who do this work are selfless enough to not really care about the fact that it's now getting this attention. I mean, we're just glad that more people are kind of on board and having this conversation now. It's like, as everybody's talking about Beyonce, and I am happy to see that in so many of these articles and so many of these conversations, people like her and Miko Marks and, Holly G and the work that she's doing with Black Opry are being mentioned and talked about as well, because it does matter. But I think at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing, which is for the actual story to be told about what place and significance Black artistry, Black people, Black culture has in country music, and to authentically hold that truth as we move forward as a genre and as a music community.
Got to find a way to get in the way. Speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can, just shine your light brighter.
So you've raised almost $45,000 through Kickstarter to do this new album. You are a fully independent artist. You don't operate under any label. Is that a self-inflicted choice, or are you waiting for the right moment?
If there is an artist if there's a label out there who is looking for a Black butch lesbian who sings social justice music, sign me up. I'll happily jump on board. But they just don't seem to really be out there, and it matters to me very much to be able to tell the stories that I want to tell the way that I want to tell them, and not feel like I have to be beholden to anybody. And so if there's some label that just wants to cut me checks and let me keep doing this work, I'll happily jump on a label.
They say that freedom is a constant struggle. They say that freedom is a constant struggle. They say that freedom is a constant struggle. Oh Lord, we've struggled so long. We must be free. We must be free. Black lives matter. Oh yes, they do.
Chris Matthews headlines Highway 309 Live at the Normal Theater on Wednesday, March 20th. Peoria's Sarah and the Underground will open the evening beginning at 6. Now, if you missed Lauren's interview with Sarah Marie Dillard, you can listen to it at WGLT.org. All Highway 309 live concerts are free.
Support for arts and culture coverage on WGLT comes from PNC Financial Services. PNC is committed to supporting local arts and culture events in the communities they serve.